Evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We'll wait a few seconds to let everyone get settled as everyone comes in from the waiting room. Very excited to see a full house in our virtual little space here. Really excited to see so many people join us and a lot of familiar names as well. Welcome, everyone. Well, thank you so much for being here. My name is Chelsea Farrar, and I am the Curator of Community Engagement here at the University of Arizona Museum of Art. Super excited for tonight's panel discussion with some amazing artists from the Desert Triangle print portfolio. Before we officially begin, I always like to respectfully acknowledge that the University of Arizona does reside on territories and the lands of indigenous peoples. Today, Arizona is home to 22 federally recognized tribes, with Tucson, where I am located, being home to the O'odham and the Yaqui. And the museum, the UA Museum of Art, is deeply committed to equity, diversity, and inclusion. And while we acknowledge that land acknowledgements themselves are small efforts, but they are very important steps to start to build sustainable relationships with indigenous communities. And we're continuing to work on strengthening our community partnerships and service and outreach. And as part of that, we are always open to dialogue and feedback on how we can do that better, as we know that this work is not complete and will be ongoing. We would love to know where you are all joining us from. You can use the chat at the bottom of your screen to let us know where you're joining from. And if you happen to know whose ancestral homelands you reside on, that would definitely be great to add that to the chat as well. And we can also have a great conversation with you all through the chat, asking if you have any questions that you would like to ask of the panelists. We're hoping to have a little bit of time at the end that we can share those as well. And so again, just welcome to tonight's first artist talk of the fall 2023 season. This series this fall is going to highlight a lot of contemporary artists and contemporary artistic practice that is in conjunction with our exhibitions that are on view. And one of my colleagues, Miriam Sandoval, is going to add a link in the chat if you want to learn more information about our current and upcoming exhibitions this fall, further additional events that will be in conjunction with our exhibitions, family programs, our happy hour trivia, all those amazing things that are coming up. You can find that information on our website, on that link that Miriam's going to add. And then additionally, if you would like to help sponsor and support some educational programs such as artist talks like this, you can find information on how to become a member on our website as well. And if we have any members joining us here tonight, thank you for supporting the UA Museum of Art. Well, I am going to pass the spotlight, so to speak, over to Olivia Miller, our museum director and curator of exhibitions, who is going to be facilitating tonight's incredible conversation with all of these artists. Olivia.
Thank you so much, Chelsea, for the introduction, and welcome everyone. Thank you all so much for being here. We are delighted to be speaking with some of the artists from the Desert Triangle Print Carpeta. It's really nice to see that there are more artists who have joined us in the audience. So thank you everyone for being here. This portfolio is part of the UAMA collection. And while we have been able to pull some of the prints for other exhibitions and feature them, this is actually the first time that we've been able to show the entire portfolio at once since Karl Whitaker generously donated it to our museum. So we're really excited for this exhibition. This exhibition would not have been possible without our wonderful former curatorial intern, Sophie Briley. Last year, she was the Marty and Ed Slowick curatorial intern, and this was her major project for the year. So Sophie did all of the research. She contacted the artists. She did all the label writing. She selected the frames. She planned the layout of the exhibition. So she really saw it through from start to finish. And she has since graduated from the University of Arizona, and she's currently pursuing a master's degree in art history at American University. And she's about to start a student position at the National Gallery in their image collections department. So we're really happy for Sophie. But now it is my honor to introduce our panelists this evening. So Cristina Cárdenas is a painter, printmaker, and ceramicist based in Arizona for more than 30 years. Born and raised in Guadalajara, Mexico, Cardenas received her BFA from the Universidad de Guadalajara and later moved here to Tucson, where she received her master's in printmaking from the University of Arizona. She has held residencies in South Africa, Giverny, France. Cardenas also has artwork at the University of Notre Dame, the McNay Art Museum, and the National Museum of Mexican Art in Chicago, among other institutions. We are also joined by Ramon Cardenas, who is a visual artist who forms half of the collaborative art duo Los Dos. He has more than a decade of experience in community-based arts, and that includes public murals, public art commissions, grants from the city of El Paso and other cities, collaborations with artists and community organizations throughout El Paso and Ciudad Juarez, workshops and curriculum development for students of all ages, and business experience through the Maintain Studio project. He's the inaugural assistant curator of practice at the Stanley and Gerald Rubin Center of the Visual Arts at the University of Texas at El Paso. And Manuel Guerra was born and raised in El Paso, Texas. He attended El Paso Community College, earned his Bachelor of Fine Arts at UT El Paso and his master's at the State University of New York at Albany. He teaches foundation courses in drawing, life drawing, and printmaking at UTEP and runs Horned Toad Print Studio, which he opened in 2005. And last but not least, we have Karl Whitaker, who is a self-proclaimed art agitator and the one who conceived of the Desert Triangle Print Carpeta. So Karl, I'm actually going to start the conversation off with you and ask you to tell us a bit more about yourself and about how this project came about. You also created a video. So as you get started, I'm going to pull up my screen and I'm going to show this video in the background so we can hear more about this incredible project. And just remember to unmute.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
All right. So I guess I should start off with the name. The Desert Triangle is kind of like the Bermuda Triangle. I mean, we're in this sort of unusual area of the country where if somebody shows up, they couldn't be seen. They might not be seen for years and years later on. It seems like we need to have a little bit more of a presence, you know, in the rest of the world and things, because I think there's a lot of great artists, as you can see in the video over here, doing work. And when I came down to Tucson in 2009, I was like overwhelmed about how many artists were working and thriving here in Tucson. And we just don't know about that in Albuquerque. So that's part of the impetus to go out and show prints outside of our city limits over here. I'd also like to sort of add that the Desert Triangle is more of a convergence because everybody comes from a different area. Ramon was already working with Maintain, a lot of artists Maintain in El Paso, so we tapped him on the shoulder and he brought artists into the Desert Triangle. Manuel Guerra was working with Contenido Neto and Horned Toad Print, so we got a lot of printmakers from there. And likewise, we just saw people like Joe Marshall was showing prints at Big Studio, Big Gallery, so we tapped him on the shoulder and brought in a lot of Big artists. So it was kind of easy for me to get some artists to give me some prints. When we go off and see shows, like we saw Estampas de la Raza, which is a great printmaking show by Ricardo and Harriet Romo. And it's traveling the country right now, but I don't see any of our mountain time artists in there unless you're Luis Jimenez. So part of the motivation to show prints and to get up the Desert Triangle is to let the rest of the country and the rest of the Southwest let us know what's going on in the city just over in the next state. As you can see in the video, we did manage to show not only in Albuquerque, Tucson, and El Paso, where the Desert Triangle artists are from, but we took it to Portland, we took it to Riverside, California, South Florida, Chicago, and Mexiarte in Austin, Texas. And we also had a lot of shows in, well, say Puebla, Mexico, Mexico City, and Oaxaca. So it's exceeded my expectations. It's been a really great adventure. This is a mural that Los Dos and Jellyfish created on the outside of Mexiarte spontaneously after we had an opening. So we had a lot of fun doing that kind of stuff. Las Cruces, we were showing the Las Cruces Museum of Art. And we had a lot of fun afterwards. We had a few shows, continuing to show prints in Albuquerque and El Paso. And so I think the video says a lot right there. I should point out that what we did start off with, we took a cue from the Seri project, which is a printmaking project from Austin, Texas. Sam Coronado was commissioning artists to do 50 prints. I think he kept 25 and gave the artists 25 of those prints. And so we sort of followed that trek right there and provided the studios and the supplies for all the artists to make their print editions.
It's really wonderful. Thank you so much for putting the video together. It tells us a couple of things. One, I love, as a curator, I love seeing how many different ways the portfolio has been exhibited. You can see sometimes it's framed, sometimes unframed, sometimes hung salon style. So it's just really interesting to see how different the portfolio looks depending on the space. The other thing that really comes to light in that video is just how collaborative this project was. And I think that's probably why you all got such an incredible reception to it, because you did involve so many people. So although, it's focused on El Paso, Albuquerque, and Tucson, you're working with all sorts of print studios outside of those regions and within those regions. And so it really was a monumental project that brought a lot of people together, which I think is really, really special. And I think is something that in some ways is kind of unique to printmaking, just how much collaboration seems to happen. So what I'd like to do now is I did bring in images of each of the artists who are here tonight of their prints. And so I'm hoping that we can take a moment for each of you to tell us a bit more about your print. Maybe you can tell us about the workshop that you worked with or how you printed it, if it wasn't in a workshop, maybe why you picked the particular medium, anything you want to say about the print. So Ramon, I'm going to talk to you first about this print that you made as Los Dos as your collaborative project. So I wonder if you could talk a little bit more about Los Dos as well as this print specifically.
Yeah, so definitely I'll talk about my collaboration as Los Dos between my wife and I. We began maybe in 2009 collaborating, and we began like making small stickers and posters. And that kind of grew into larger street interventions and public art murals, as well as sculptures. Our practice involves incorporating our styles and backgrounds. So Christian has experience in illustration, painting, and design. And I have a printmaking and photography experience. So like a lot of our work is basically documenting everyday life in our region, as well as our personal, cultural, and histories, cultural identities and histories. I'm a Filipino American, and Christian was born in Juarez, and she grew up in Puebla, Mexico. So kind of taking our backgrounds and, applying that within this unique border region. So that's a little bit about our work. And this print in particular was based on, it's called El Gallo, and we found a bunch of these posters around Canutillo, Texas. So there were like lithographic posters that they would use to promote, these dance hall shows in Canotillo. And I thought they were really striking typographic. And, I collected a series of 3 of them. So we used those as the base and we painted over them. And we painted these 3, icons. One is a gallo, the other is a chivo, a goat, and then the other is a coyote. So these were kind of inspired by the corrido by Los Tucanes de Tijuana. And, that really inspired this imagery. So, we took a picture of that painting and then we wanted to reproduce it since a lot of our work is, inspired by, gráfica popular, everyday, hand painted signs that you see on, local businesses and transportation. So that's what a lot of our work, is inspired by. And we chose to work with Arturo Negrete, who's a master printer based in Mexico City. And, back then we were just like really, searching for a printer that could really, do the really intricate works that we were looking to do. And, his name just keep on popping up, and a lot of, graphic artists have worked with him throughout Latin America and Mexico. So when Karl approached us to, preliminary to do this project, we automatically wanted to work with him because, just because of the, the name that he acquired from himself by working with all these artists. We heard about him through like an online blog and just really started researching what he does. So it was an honor to, have a chance to visit his shop, learn from him, and, produce a series of editions with other El Paso and Juarez artists. So I think for me, that was like the most rewarding part, just making those collaborations and, mainly friendships with like the taller in Mexico City and with Arturo and his whole crew.
Thank you. That's wonderful. For those in our audience who may not be familiar with a taller or a master printer, do you mind just speaking a bit about what their role is in a workshop and in a project like this?
Yeah, I mean, I think like Manny could probably elaborate more on that, but like based on like my experience from what I've seen a master printer do is like they pretty much know everything in and out of the shop, they know the whole process, and they really reach out and collaborate with different artists, because the one thing is the process and then the other thing is the imagery. So I think that collaboration between artists and master printer, it's a really personal work process that you have to go through because you're working really close quarters and really intricate, detailed work. So, you have to really be on top of your game, I feel, and they've had that experience for years and years. So I feel it's something that you have to really learn and really, experiment, see what works, see what doesn't work, see what materials work for you. So, I feel like that comes with years of experience again. And, for me, I just leave that to the pros, like I've had, brief experience, like maybe 10 years in the textile screen printing industry, but I feel like poster printmaking is a whole nother realm, so it's using a lot of the same processes and materials, but there are a lot of nuances that poster printing gives.
Gotcha. Thank you. Manny, do you have anything to add about print workshops?
The print workshop, I mean, just like Ramon says, we're on top of the game, and I do have assistants that help me out that are also learning from me. So I'm continuously working with artists. They come in with their ideas, and then we talk about, again, how they want to express themselves, or again, what they want to do with this print, how do they want to reach people, and so forth. So it's a lot of, again, one-on-one basis type of work. And like I say, I work with many people, from emerging artists all the way up to professional artists. And not only are they learning from me, but I'm learning from them as well. So it's a continuous learning process in the shop.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. And Karl, I loved how much you highlighted the workshops. Every print is labeled, if it was printed at a workshop where it was, and then the catalog that you created features a lot of imagery from those interactions. So that's a really nice feature. Cristina, I'm going to turn it over to you. You once said in an interview, quote, that you have to express your community, its problems, and its strengths. So I'm wondering if you could speak a bit about what you mean by that, specifically maybe how that relates to your images of women and how it relates to the print that's in the Desert Triangle.
Yeah, of course. Hi again. Well, I had two images to choose, and I decided to go with this one because as I mentioned before, and you, Olivia, mentioned before, it's my artwork is about women artists mostly, and choose women in general, and empower the women, and also give the opportunity and the voice for everybody, but especially immigrants. Let me tell a little bit about my background. I'm from Guadalajara. So when I came here, I was considering myself already an artist. So and with different reality, when I enrolled with the university, it was I had like a blast, because I mean the facilities and all that, but at the same time, I feel the necessity with my teachers and college to describe myself, to get an identity. And I keep saying, well, I'm Mexican. No, but are you Chicana? Are you Mexican American? How do you define yourself? So it was when I realized that I had to talk about my community. I had to be very conscious that Tucson is so close to the border. And as an immigrant and Latina and Mexicana artist, I have been experiencing the same. I produced a piece that where my daughter and myself were flying, crossing the border, carrying all these cultures and the buildings, the little things that the photos. So I know I'm going to another direction, but so what I really realized to know is like how people can that was at school. How do they encapsulate it in some kind of art? I mean, how do you define yourself? And I'm a non-Mexican American, but I'm gonna talk about my community, the community that I represent and I wanted to represent, and especially to break all the stereotypes about women, Latin girls, and also all the icons, the bad icons about the symbols of Mexicans. And it was my responsibility, and I feel it since the beginning, to tell a lot about my culture, what I'm carrying with. As any immigrant who crossed the border to any borders, we carry a rich tradition, a rich history, and especially because Mexico has the most wonderful, I don't know if the most, but for me, a really wonderful history. And during the pre-Columbian, the Aztecs, the Mayas, the Zapotec, which are included definitely in my pieces, and that always emphasize in how the culture, how people see women, what did they represent. And in the Aztec, it was the god and the goddess, the prince and the princess. I mean, we were so labeled with the male society in that time. So that's what I'm trying still to do. And I always say that my pieces has a history behind. And I always, if you see my piece, it has always an icon or a symbol telling you that this comes from somebody in Mexico who came here.
Love that. Thank you. Yeah, this image in particular with the name Medusa, it conjures up many images and stories that we might think we know. And then when you look at the image, it's a very strong image because you made her so large in proportion to the size of the paper. She's she can't even fit in there. And she just represents a sort of very strong figure, but there's still kind of a sense of mystery about it. It's a really, really strong image. So Manny, I'm going to turn it over to you. If you could talk a bit about your work, you combine a lot of mixed imagery from mythology, from past artworks, and from other sources, and it creates a very sort of visually stunning, provocative, and complex image. So can you tell us a bit about your practice and how that comes out in this particular work?
Well, I really like to draw a lot. I draw constantly. I come from a commercial family of printmakers. My mother owned her own commercial print shop, and my father is, again, an artist, draftsman, painter. And my mother would always show me images with, from past to some contemporary stuff. But the reality of my image was I was reacting to something that actually happened to me. In my second marriage, I had family members that were living in Juarez, and I was constantly reading about girls missing. And I would just say, wow, this, never did really take it into account until it happened to close friends of mine and family members, that suddenly their daughters or their girls were missing. And it just struck something inside of me that I just, wow, that I had to react and do something about this. So there's a misconception about my print. When people look at it, they feel that it's an erotic based print, and really it's just a reaction about who is killing the women of Juarez. And since I like to draw, I fell in love with lithography and drawing on, again, the stone. Again, it is relaxing for me and peaceful. It improves my focus. Drawing also helps me express my emotions. And I said, what other better way to, again, express my emotions? Now, looking for a shop here in the US, I was not easily accepted. I either had to be an established artist or a professional artist that was showcasing or had business ties. In other words, I was selling out there. Karl did a travel through Mexico and said, you know what, you need to check this place out, which was called La Ceiba Gráfica, which is in Jalapa, Veracruz. La Ceiba, again, is an art center that specializes in teaching, production, and research into, again, traditional graphic arts. This place is run by master printer Per Anderson and Martin Binaver. And what really struck me about this place was Mexico is so violent. And I was really saying, like, are you sure you want me to go to Mexico? I found out that, it's really dangerous. And he said, you got to check this place out. It's, again, a utopia of print. It's a print utopia. This place, they make their own, again, tools, inks, presses from wood, inks from the soup from bakeries. Their marble, again, my print is a 4-color print from stone using Mexican marble, which is, again, quarried from Veracruz. So I had to go out there and see it myself, and I fell in love with, again, this restored hacienda that, again, dates back to 16th century. And like I say, there is a misconception about the print, but my print is really about, again, the missing women of Juarez.
Thank you. It's hard for me. I love Goya, and I learned a lot about Goya, and so there are certain elements about this that kind of remind me of his Disasters of War series. I don't know if you were pulling it all specifically from particular artists or not, but that's always kind of what I think about when I see this work.
Well, Goya is one of my favorite artists, and again, you know, I really look extensively at his works, Los Caprichos, the Tauromaquia, and again, my work is usually based on, again, violence. And again, I grew up with all this stuff, again, coming from the projects, and you know, so, but really it was, like I say, Goya is an influence on me, and again, how I was reacting to this situation. So yes, you are correct.
All right. Karl, we'd love to hear more about your print. And one of the unique features about your print and a couple of the other ones in the exhibition is that they can be enhanced by augmented reality. So I'm going to just play this clip as you tell us a bit about your print and about the augmented reality feature.
Well, I think we got to push art and prints into the 21st century, no? So why not use all the tools that we have at our disposal? And augmented reality is one thing that showed up. We really have a big debt to David Fig, and he's the one holding the tablet right there. He did augmented reality for 3 prints. He's the head of Augment El Paso. He did my print. He did Tanya's print, Tanya Rich's print, and he did Zeke Pena's print, which actually wound up in the Smithsonian. So we're really excited about all that. I guess I went, as you can see, there's a big draw from Mexico. I think we have a lot of, Mexico has a really strong artistic pull, I think, at least for the Southwest. I grew up in New Mexico. I was fortunate enough because I got to go to art school in Mexico, and it is just really exciting down there. So I did my print with Arturo Negrete at Taller 75 Grados. At the same time that Ramon did his print, we did, I don't know, and Cristina did her print there. We did about at least a third of our prints down there. And we also did a print in Oaxaca as well as Manny's print in Veracruz. I'll just say one more thing about my my actual drawing. I like to draw the figure a lot. I sort of have this feeling that the figure should be a little bit transparent. You can sort of reach through it. You can see how it occupies that space. And David Fig did a really good job about enhancing that with the augmented reality by throwing lines and spatial arrows through the print. And so I was really delighted with what happened.
Wonderful, thank you. It really is an interesting feature, and definitely, I mean, I think you've shown people kind of a slice of all of the excitement that's happening in Mexico. The incredible resources that are down there and how much creativity there is. As an aside, I just went to Mexico City for the first time over the summer, and I'm still very jazzed about it, and already am trying to plan my next trip because it was just such an incredible time. I'm going to stop sharing just because the next questions I have lined up don't specifically relate to your work, but I can always pull up this slideshow if we need to reference anything again. So I'm going to ask a general question that any or all of you can feel free to address. I want to talk a little bit about the region. You know, there's a reason, Karl, that you picked all of these artists from the Southwest. Many of the works in the exhibition relate to direct experiences of living in the Southwest, which I think we could all agree it's a very culturally vibrant area. The landscape is kind of a world unto its own. You know, people travel all over the world to the Southwest because of the landscape. It's obviously a very historically fraught and complicated place and continues to be so. And so I'm just wondering how you all see yourselves as an artist living in the Southwest, and, you know, how do you see yourself within this region or your artwork within this region? So any of you can go.
Hey, we have hot chili here. I mean, what else is there to say? We got hatch chili here in New Mexico. And we got yuccas, we got piñatas. I went to Spain one time. They didn't even have tortillas. They gave me a big omelet. So that was a big reality check, you know, like how precious it is over here. I don't want to ramble too much, but Tucson and El Paso and Albuquerque are pretty distinct from Colorado and some of our other neighbors over here. So I forget that sometimes. They don't have tamales in Virginia. So I'll let somebody else talk.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, they living in by the border. I think it's important. Besides what you guys said, Olivia and Karl, about how beautiful it is. One of the things that really I was stunned by is the light. The yellow, the clear light that Arizona has. It's just, I mean, it's just incredible. Everything is so bright. And as I said, I'm from Guadalajara. Well, when I go back, I see that the light is not the same. It's kind of gray over there, and it's too green. And I mean, I love to be the two places, but somehow living in the border, you learn to love what you have, and the landscape is one inspiration. I had to say that living at in Tucson is a beautiful place to live, very, very friendly city. But I should say that is a small. It's a small. It's kind of we as an artist, we need to go beyond, and like Phoenix, that's what I print. I go and print because there's nobody printing that big here. So that's but I always wanted to come back when I'm away, because there's something that also the air is so clear. And we mentioned about the border, the heart problems that they always had problems with. It's something that nobody can resolve, politicians, and so that's something that it really attracts me to, because I feel like it's my own experience.
Thank
For
you.
me, it's the people around me. My shop is, again, just 10 minutes away from the border, and the people are very special. There's nothing like home. I've lived in New York. I've been to several other places, but El Paso is unique, and Juarez is unique as well. But really, it's the people that make it for me. Again, being from El Paso, in my travels, I'm not considered, how they say, if I go to Mexico, I'm not really Mexican. And if I come back home, again, coming up with the term Chicano, Chucano, Mexicano, I'm somebody that, again, is caught in between worlds. But when I look at El Paso and Juarez, it's home for me, and it's the people that make it special. Yes, there's the food. Yes, there's the beautiful weather that we have. Again, Sun City, almost, again, sun 360 days out of the year, but again, it's home. There's nothing like El Paso, and it's very special. And that's why I react, again, with my place.
Yeah. Ramon, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely in particular, I guess I could speak on like El Paso and Juarez border artists. I feel like a lot of them are obviously overlooked. So like Karl said, there's so much talent here, and like for him to really put up money to produce all these prints and really support the artists, I think that's the most important aspect of the project. Like a lot of people will come and like do projects here in El Paso and Juarez and not necessarily like incorporate the community or do it like in a haphazard way. So I feel like really taking the time to get to know the people and really see what they want to do. But I feel yeah, like I was saying, the border artists are overlooked. So like us coming together and really putting the show together and having it travel really showcases what we do. So I feel like that's really important for us, to get the recognition that we deserve, because a lot of artists will come to do projects here, like I said, but they don't really invite us to do projects elsewhere. So I think us coming together to make a statement of who we are and where we're from and what we do is super important. I feel like our work as Los Dos is really, you know, symbolic of like collaboration of two cities, you know, of two people coming together. You know, like I said, as a Filipino American growing up in the US, I felt, you know, when I cross the border, I feel like I'm in the Philippines. You know, I feel like that city, you know, like just that city atmosphere, I feel like there is so many similarities between the Philippines and Mexico, you know, besides like the Spanish conquest and how, you know, they occupied both countries, you know, our last names, a lot of the food, a lot of, you know, the cultural things that we do, but I feel, you know, it goes beyond that, into more personal relationships. So yeah, I feel like we as border artists coming together to do this is really important.
That's great. That connects to a follow-up question I have. You mentioned the importance of individual artists coming and really getting to know the community, and how sometimes they do that and sometimes they don't. So as a follow-up, what about art museums and galleries in the Southwest? You know, how can they better support and advocate for artists in their community, you know, in particular those who are underrepresented in their collections? And any of you can answer that question.
I start. I don't want to start with this issue because I definitely feel that Latin, Chicano, Mexican American, and any other foreign artists are not well represented. And lately we have more presence in museums. I participated in this big show. It's called La Malinche, the legacy of La Malinche in Denver started, and then Albuquerque and San Antonio. And you cannot imagine how much people went to those three museums. And it's like recognized as, you know, a population who has been living here before a lot of people, the new people who moved to United States. So I just feel the urgency to somehow, the museums has some kind of responsibility to sustain and to show local artists, because we have been living in a place, myself, for more than 30 years. I don't think I'm going back to Mexico soon. And I feel what it was mentioned before, you go to Mexico and you're not a Mexican, or you're not considered, they even tell me that I'm La Malinche, I'm the traitor, because I came to with a lie with well, that's the left politics over there. But yeah, so yeah, definitely is. We really wanted to push and to make clear that there's not enough works that represent our population in the United States. And I mentioned about Tucson, but I mean, I have pieces in San Antonio, in San Francisco, and the Chicago Mexican Museum was one of the first one who really took me, and I was like rather surprised. Besides other ones, so yeah, definitely support local artists and support Latin. Chiche Marine is the big thing right now.
Mm-hmm.
The museum. Yeah.
Thank you. For those of you in the audience, you can look up La Malinche exhibition, and you can read a lot about it. I didn't get the chance to see it, but it sounds like it was a really great show. I heard a lot of really good things about it.
I saw it in Albuquerque.
Nice. Big
So-
piece that I have.
And you know, we had to thank the El Paso Museum of Art, because they gave us a big boost by showing, having the first big show of the Desert Triangle. And I've always been fond of that, because every time I go to El Paso, on the first floor, they're showing local artists. Again, like Cristina's pieces was being shown that very print last time I went to El Paso, which was like a month ago. And so I hope that some of the other cities follow that example.
I think we at Horntoad Prints also, when people are graduating out of the university, they have no place to show. Again, we at Horntoad Prints, we support emerging and professional artists. And me and Karl, when we do our projects like these, the past ambos lados, or again, the 8x8, we go out and we invite the students coming out of the university or still in the university, and we give them the opportunity to show. Right next to the Horntoad Prints workshop, again, we have what is called the Alameda Art and Salvage. And this is a beautiful space where, again, we don't charge, we just invite people from, again, El Paso. We even go as far as Mexico, Australia, different parts of the world to just come in and get a chance to show. There are so many talented artists that, again, never had the opportunity to show. And it's a wonderful experience, especially showing with different people around the world. So again, we continue doing what we like to do, which is, again, art, print, and again, helping others get their voice out there.
Thank you. Ramon, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, definitely. I think like galleries and museums, you know, that's what they need to be focused on. Definitely how they could support the local artist community through different ways, you know, through exhibition space, through programming, through, you know, selling their work, through markets, you know, multiple ways to support local artists. You know, so I feel that's really important in my position as assistant curator of practice at the Rubin Center, you know, is really you know, finding ways that we could make those you know, connections with local artists. You know, we with our project space, we've been you know, really focused on having that space to exhibit local artists, to provide them with a, you know, a really great budget, to provide them, you know, catalog, you know, scholars to write about their work. So that's like a really new initiative that we're pushing to focus, you know, on how we could, you know, uplift the artists and, you know, really give them, you know, something for their portfolio that they could really show to other institutions that could give them, you know, opportunities elsewhere. So I think, you know, there's still a lot of room for improvement in El Paso for other galleries and other museums to support the artists. I feel like definitely, you know, collectors and art patrons need to like step up, business owners, business developers who have the means to purchase artwork, you know, to support local artists, you know, because, you know, that's what keeps us going. You know, materials aren't free, materials aren't cheap. So, you know, we need to keep going and, you know, not get burnt out by like struggling, you know. So I feel, you know, there has been opportunities, but, you know, there's always room for growth. So, yeah, I feel, you know, skeptical and optimistic at the same time.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it's really important. Everything that you all said, you know, museums and galleries need to step up and show more and invite artists to programs and collect their work. And then I just want to stress, galleries can only stay open so long as there are people there purchasing artwork. And so definitely, if you are someone out there who is interested in buying art and has the means to do so, I'll stress that art comes in many different price ranges. So you'd be surprised at the incredible original works of art that you can buy that supports the artist as well as the galleries, so that they can keep their doors open. There's a lot of really new great galleries here in Tucson that are doing a lot of interesting things. So I'm going to have to cut my questions short because I want to be sure that we're able to address any questions that our audience might have before we say goodbye. So we do have one question in the chat. So do you think this project has energized the Southwestern Desert art space?
Well, I hope so. And if it didn't, we're gonna have to try again. Right, Manny? We-
Yeah, I think so. I think it has energized some of the artists. And again, like every time we announce a certain program, we get everybody excited. And it's like I say, we'll do the footwork. We just want you to again produce the art, you know?
Well, we do have some documentation on the blog. So I can barely read the chat over here. So
Oh, yes, there's a comment there. More exhibition documents and essays about artists' works would be valuable to those that do not attend the exhibits. That's a really good point, especially because a lot of museums now are finding it very difficult to maintain a publication program. And so you might be noticing that there's a lot of exhibitions that happen and there's no longer a catalog that goes with it. And so, you know, even just using a website in an interesting way, you know, this talk, for example, this will be recorded and added to our YouTube channel so that there is a history of this talk and anyone who missed it can watch it. So definitely, I think museums and galleries need to get creative. If a catalog is not in their budget, how can they get kind of a long-lasting thing out there that preserves the history of an exhibition, since they are transitory?
Manny, show our catalog. We self-publish the catalog there. Yeah. Sometimes the artists got to do the work themselves.
That's right.
Can I add something here?
Of course.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. And printmaking is the media, is a technique that it can be spread. You can print and have exhibitions in different places. Also, the price of the graphic pieces is much, as you know, lower. And as we said, it was said at the beginning, the tradition of the like Taller de Gráfica Popular and all that, it comes in our blood. So we were printmakers, I mean, graphic designers. So the graphic is, because we use it for political statements, especially in Latin American and in Mexico, of course. And I also need to add, like, Karl, I mean, it would be wonderful to do something, but if I weren't for Karl, this is what, because he put some money, he really trusts us, all the artists, to just, here, you go, whatever you want to print. I mean, not a lot of people like that. So a big applause for Karl for sponsoring all this. And deal
We
with
really do try to, again, every time we have an exhibition, we really do try to, again, put a catalog. And Karl has been very generous to, again, put out, again, the Desert Triangle catalog, Ambos Lados, against Horn-Toed Prints exhibitions. Like he says, if you have a show and you don't have a catalog, it never existed. So again, we really do try. Again, we accept donations, but through his generosity, you know, pretty much it's come from him. And again, we're all thankful about that. You know, we just keep going along, and we look to see who's going to carry the ball in the next exhibition.
I'm just going to mention something off the, Manny and I have been working kind of with small exhibitions. We call it bucket exhibitions. Manny calls it 8x8. And we have in a bucket, we can go over and do hit and run exhibitions, like pop-up exhibitions, 20 minutes long, or Manny's taking something down to Silver City for the Southwest Print Fiesta.
Right, that is correct. We will be at Southwest Print Fiesta in October. I will be talking about a portion of the 8x8. There's 39 works, 39 beautiful works, artists from the United States, artists from Mexico. It was previously shown in Guadalajara this past summer. And again, like Cristina said, there's times that when I come back from Mexico, I'm still not off the cloud, but you should check it out. The other thing that's going to be happening soon is the 8x8, the first 8x8, the second 8x8 will be shown at New Art Masters here in El Paso. So again, those that haven't seen those shows, they're wonderful. I do recommend it highly. There's a lot of beautiful prints. And again, enjoy.
That's great that you have so many things coming up. For those of you in Tucson, Silver City is only a 3-hour drive, and it's a beautiful drive. So I hope
Yes.
you all can make it out there.
We use the augmented reality to get into the 21st century, but the mail also works in the 21st century as well. And it didn't work so well in the 20th century going to Mexico and the United States. So this is a huge boost.
All right. Does anybody else in the audience have questions for the artists? Before we close out, feel free to write them in the chat. I did get a question ahead of time. If people are still thinking of their questions. One question was why these three kind of major cities? Were there any rural or small towns that you could have considered or that we should think, you know, let's say you were to do a future portfolio. Are there other towns that you think you would incorporate that are maybe smaller or rural?
It kind of came together organically. We weren't, well, this wasn't conceived as 30 prints at first, and we thought about maybe going to Phoenix or something, or even Mexico City, but these were the people who stepped up. These are the people I saw. This is where the energy came from, and all these cities have similar populations and stuff. So it sort of naturally unfolded just the way it should have been, I think.
Nice. So we have another question. Do you see the border corridor as having a specific relation to printmaking?
That sounds like a Manny question.
I can see him thinking.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I never did think about that, but it's a corridor. I mean, there's I don't know if I'm answering this correctly, but looking at Mexican prints and people here in El Paso, there's a special tie to it that it's not like prints that are in New York or Utah or such, but I think we feed off of each other from US artists to Mexican artists, and it happens here in El Paso. And I think that I hope it continues to flourish. I did see something on the chat. Is it possible to have a Desert Triangle Carpeta #2? There's immense talent here. And again, we do know a lot of artists that, again, would like to participate in this. And maybe that's something that, again, could be in the talks. Well, we don't know. But again, we do have a special relationship with, again, our family in Mexico that I think that, again, it's going to bring more beautiful prints or more beautiful art into the States, as well as us taking work over there. I don't know if I answered that right. So
You were going to ask your friend Bezos to sponsor the Desert Triangle too?
right. He still wants me to chat with him when we go up in the rocket, but
Okay, we'll go over to what is it? Van Horn, right? You're closer to Van Horn than I am.
I'll try to get out there.
For those visiting El Paso, we have a couple people who are planning a trip there. What else would you recommend they see in addition to the El Paso Museum of Art?
I think that's a good one for Ramon.
Oh, you're muted.
Sorry. Yeah, the galleries at the Rubin Center for the Visual Arts. I'm just plugging in my my place of work, but honestly, for like contemporary art, I feel like they're the only gallery space in the region that really focuses on bringing you know, international contemporary art to the region, and while also supporting local artists. So in October the 19th, we're going to be bringing the De La Torre Brothers show that was you know, that opened at the Cheech Marin show. That was their debut show. So that's a traveling show that's going to be at the Rubin Center. So we're really excited about having that at the space. We have you know, we have different shows that are always rotating, but right now in our project space, we have Kristen Apodaca, who's you know, a pretty renowned local artist, and we have her work up in the atrium and project space. And You know, I feel like that's always one of the places to go to. There's not really many in El Paso, so I feel like, you know, the El Paso Museum of Art, the El Paso History Museum, you know, and the Rubin Center at UTEP are the three main ones. And then, you know, there are independent gallery spaces that are, you know, up and coming, that do small shows here and there. So I feel like you know, there are things to come look at in El Paso.
November 16th, Art Masters here in El Paso. Again, you will see, if you're in town, the 8x8 #1, the 8x8 #2. Again, we're very limited in, again, places showing art, but you can always, again, DM me on Instagram and come by and check out Horn Toad Prints. We always have, again, prints that are constantly changing, again, from participants or invited artists. Come on by. It's a little museum in itself, and it's something, it's quite nice to, again, come by and see a print workshop that is just a little bit different than other workshops.
This is wonderful. Yeah, Carl.
I was just gonna say the Border Biennale is gonna show up in December, right? So this is at the El Paso Museum of Art, and they invite artists who are 200 miles from the border, which means that Albuquerque is 225 miles away from the border. But you'll see a lot of interesting artists in this region, you know, in the border corridor.
It's great. So much to look forward to. As we close out today, everyone in the audience, we are celebrating our fall exhibitions, which includes Desert Triangle Print Carpeta, as well as Marlo Catoni's solo exhibition called Pulse, which features his paintings and weavings. We'll be celebrating these two shows on Thursday, October 6th, from October 26th, from 6 o'clock to 7:30 p.m. So I hope you all can make it. Desert Triangle will be up through the end of December, so you still have plenty of time to see the show. And thank you all so much for taking the time to speak with all of us today. And thank you to everyone in the audience for spending your evening with us.
And
I'd
can I
also
just
like to
say,
go ahead, Carl.
can I just say thank you, Sophia, Olivia, and also Chelsea for organizing our show. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I'd like to thank Sophia, Olivia, and everybody at the University of Arizona at Tucson. But I'd like to really thank all the artists that have participated in our programs from the United States, outside to Australia and Mexico. You did a wonderful job. And again, you produced some very beautiful works. I commend you all. And again, que viva el grabado para siempre.
Thank you all, everyone.